Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good to have you all here. Welcome to 11:11 celebration. Good to have you here on this prior to wintry day. It's nice to see everyone who got up and went out and braved the cold. I haven't been out the last couple of hours. Is it still cold out there? I got up at 6 and got here about 7 or so I haven't been out there in the last few hours to see if it's still... I thought maybe it would jump up to 60 or 70, but it's not there, I guess. Not yet. You never know, right?
Maybe 16 or 17.
Yeah. A couple of days we're going to have of this, so it'll be interesting if this will be our winter. It's good to see you all here this morning, and I want to make a couple of announcements. You can notice them on your bulletin if you look on the back. And while I'm making the announcements, I invite you to register your attendance and with the cards there, or scan it with your phone and register online. And then in a little bit, we'll bring those up forward when we start to sing. If you'll notice on the back, the Winter Festival of Arts with singer-songwriter Elizabeth Wills and with guest singer Hannah Kirby from The Voice. We're going to have a fun evening. We have storytelling. We have drumming that's going to start at 6. And it looks like that afternoon and that evening is going to be very pleasant, very sunny, and maybe a balmy 60 degrees for a high. So it should be a nice evening, and hope that you all can be a part of that. We've already got a lot of folks who've registered online, bought their tickets online, but you can do that online or you can do it at the door, and hope you'll come and be a part of that. It's Wednesday night, this coming Wednesday, the beginning of winter solstice, December 21st. Then you've got a list of the candlelight services there as well. You'll notice those. And then I want to address something just for a moment to sort of take a privilege that I don't normally do in here very often. And that is to just encourage you all to think about your end-of-year giving. The church right now always has a struggle at this time of year in meeting all of its ministry obligations, all of its program obligations, all of these things. And this particular time of this year, it's a little bit of a struggle. So I just encourage you all to consider not just to consider your own pledges and filling those out and completing those, but also consider what it is you're passionate about here with 1111 and with this church and with its openness and its largeness, its sort of big tent approach, which, as I hear from so many folks, is such a unique experience in the church world these days, and finding a church where that exists. So I encourage you to support that with your passion, by also with your giving. Finally, I want to make a note to welcome someone very special. Many of you all know her. You've heard her many times before when she was here. But my good friend Elizabeth Ellis is with us this morning, and I just want to welcome her right now. And she'll be sharing a story with us in just a little while. She was with us for an hour at something we're calling First Talks that we haven't officially rolled out yet. But some of you, if you read your email, saw that we were doing that this morning at 9:30, kind of a TED Talk kind of format with good, lively conversation around interesting ideas. And she was our interesting idea this morning and did an amazing job. So we're glad that you're with us this morning. That's all that I have announcement-wise. Let's get our worship started with some great Christmas music.
I'm gonna make a wish this Christmas. I'm gonna say a little prayer. Gonna stop here for a moment before the moment disappears. Or else in a hurry this descent. City streets and shopping malls. Wish we could slow down and remember the meaning of it all. Wherever you are, no matter how far, come back to the heart of Christmas. Live while you can, cherish the moment, the ones that you love. Make sure they know the tones missing the heart of Christmas. Cherish the moment, the ones that you love. Make sure they know it, wherever you are, no matter how far. Come back to the heart of Christmas. Live while you can. Cherish the moment, the ones that you love. Make sure they know it. When songs they sing.
So I'm going to invite us all to stand, and as we sing this song, I invite you to bring your registrations forward, and if you have an offering, to bring that forward this morning. Let's all stand and sing this song together.
Y'all ready? Let's do this one. Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Yeah. Oh, 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 Gloria in excelsis Deo. Verse 2, let's do it. Shepherds by this jubilee, why your joyous strains prolong? What the gladsome tidings be, which inspire your heavenly song? Oh, 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 yeah. In excelsis Deo. Verse 3, let's do it. Come to Bethlehem and see Christ whose birth the angels sing. Come adore on bended knee Christ the Lord, the newborn King. Yeah. Excelsis Deo. In excelsis Deo. Verse 4. See him in a manger laid, whom the choirs of angels praise. Mary, Joseph, lend your aid, while our hearts in love we raise. Go! In excelsis Deo. Excelsis Deo. Nice work, y'all. I was just going to yell verse 5 just to see what would happen. We didn't go there. Take a moment, would you please, and offer one another a sign of peace.
Find out. I wanted to stay in Dallas and have Christmas with my children and grandchildren. But at 97, Aunt Louise couldn't be left alone. They say as we age, we get more like ourselves, and she had. Aunt Louise was what Kentucky people call a caution to the wildcats. She had her own way, and she would have it entirely. And so the people who took care of her had been hard to come by because her reputation preceded her, and finding people who would take care of her was hard to do. And I knew if I didn't give those sainted people some days off, they'd all quit, and where would I find people to replace them? I might have to come there and spend 365 days a year with the dear old soul. I came down the Mountain Parkway, made that hard left, the point my children call leaving civilization, because that's where your cell phone goes black, and it doesn't come on again until you reach that spot on your way home to Texas. I passed the Mid-South electric plant, or what was left of it. It had burned to the ground. Not one brick standing on another one. I thought, hard times. Not many jobs up here in Appalachia to begin with. Mid-South electric gone. Hard times. And I headed up the road that runs parallel to the South Fork of the Kentucky River. I knew that the chief caregiver, Betty, would be standing on the back porch looking for my car. And so I thought that if I was going to visit anybody, I better do it before I arrived home. Stopped off to see Uncle Mike and Aunt Margie. Told Uncle Mike I was going to make Christmas dinner for me and Aunt Louise, and if he wanted me to, I'd make Christmas dinner for him and Aunt Margie too. He said he never had cared much for turkey. Aunt Margie said, shut up. I said, thinking the grocery store might still be open, Uncle Mike, if you could have anything you wanted for Christmas, what would you want? He said, well, young'un, if I could have what I wanted, I'd have fried squirrel and hot biscuits and squirrel gravy. Aunt Margie said, shut up. And I got in the car and drove on up to the home place. And I was wrong about Betty. She wasn't standing on the back porch looking for my car. She was standing right beside her car. And she threw gravel all over me getting out of there. I had been in the house long enough to be thinking about killing Aunt Louise. 15 minutes, maybe 20. Excuse me. When there was a knock at the door and I went to open it, there was Alfred Harrell. I was as surprised to see him as he was surprised to see me. See, when I was little, Alfred Harrell was my older brother's closest friend. And whatever those two boys were up to, I was always on the receiving end of it. So to tell you the God's honest truth, I never had much use for Alfred Harrell. He said, I want to talk to Tom. I said, Tom's not here. He said, pickup truck, Texas plates in the driveway. I want to talk to your brother Tom. I said, my pickup truck, my Texas plates, Tom's not here. And then remembering it was Christmas, I thought, well, I could take a message to my brother when I get home. I said, Alfred, if Tom had been here, what would you have said? He said, well, the Mid-South plant burned to the ground. I said, I saw it as it came by. He said, if your brother had been here, I'd ask him for the loan of $20. I said, I see. No, you don't. You remember my daughter, Becky? I said, sure, I remember Becky. Well, she come home. She's been living in Cincinnati. We weren't expecting her. She's a good mama. She had presents for the baby, but she couldn't bring them. I said, how long can she stay? He said, I ain't letting her go back. And all of a sudden, I heard what he had said with my woman's ears. We weren't expecting her. She had presents. She couldn't bring them. I ain't letting her go back. I said, how bad did he hurt her, Alfred? He said, bad enough. I'm going to kill him, but I have to wait till I get my check. I thought that might be the most true Appalachian statement I ever heard in my life. Now, I headed for the kitchen because I know that in Appalachia, the baby doesn't mean an infant. It's just the youngest member of the family. They were still calling me the baby, and I was 65 years old that year. I got a 20 out of my wallet. I said, Alfred, wouldn't you rather earn this than have to return it? Sure, what do you want me to do? I said, I want you to go up to the head of the holler and kill me 2 good fat red squirrels. And if you skin them out for me, I'll give you $5 more. He said, you give me $25 for 2 red squirrels? You've been living in the city for a long time. I said, no, please, Alfred, I mean it. He said, can't do it. That land, it belongs to your aunt. Nobody can hunt up there. Mike Moore spent 5 days in jail in it about 2 years back. Can't go to jail, it's too close to Christmas. I said, well, half that land always belonged to my mama. But Aunt Louise was the bully and always told my mama what to do. And now half that land belongs to me. I am sure that on my part, they're good fat red squirrels. I figure on her part, it's probably along the ridge up there, and they're probably polecats and skunks up there on her part. But on my part, I'm sure they're red squirrels. He said, well, if I won't go to jail, I'll get them for you. Thank you. And he walked down the sidewalk, but I had an idea. I said, Alfred, why don't you kill a turkey for your family? Well, all right, he said, and he walked a little further, and then he turned back. You remember my brother Roscoe? I said, sure, I remember Roscoe real good. He said, Roscoe worked at Mid-South. Could Roscoe have a turkey for his family? I said, you tell your brother Roscoe that Elizabeth said he could come here on my land and shoot a deer. Roscoe gets a deer, and I get a turkey. I said, who do you think always came back and untied me? And he walked off laughing. I'd given Aunt Louise a good bath. I told her because it was Christmas Eve, she could open one present. She told me it was a cruel thing to open a Christmas present before Christmas, but that didn't keep her from tearing all the paper off the box. She pronounced the flannel pajamas that I'd bought for her the ugliest ones she'd ever seen in her life, but she let me put them on her. I was watching her eat, and I thought, at 97, you can get completely worn out before you get full. And I started trying to give her bites between the ones she was managing to get in her mouth. And I made a mental note to myself to talk to Betty about helping her get full. I was washing the dishes when Alfred knocked on the door again. Not only had he killed me 3 good fat red squirrels, he had cut them up and set them to soaking in salt water. And I was glad he did that because it had been so long since I cooked a squirrel, I don't think I would have remembered to do that. It takes the gamey taste away. I said, Alfred, I've been thinking about this ever since you were here. How many people that live in our end of the county worked at Mid-South? He said, me and Roscoe, about a dozen. I said, I want you to call every one of those men and tell them I said they could come here to my land and shoot a deer. But I don't want anybody hunting on my land that I don't know. So you're going to have to go with every one of them when they do their hunting. Well, I can do that, he said. They need the meat. I said, all right, have you got a place to butcher? He said, yeah, we got a real good setup across the road at Mama's house. Hogs or deer, whatever you need. We got it all fixed up nice. I said, some of these people live in trailers. You reckon your mom would care if they came and butchered at her house? Lord, no, he said, she'd be glad to have the company. I said, then as soon as they get the butchering done, I want them to give half the meat away. He said, who would they give it to? I don't care. Old people like Uncle Mike and Aunt Margie that can't hunt for themselves anymore. Maybe some woman that's got a house full of children and no man to help her put food on the table. I don't rightly care who it is as long as it's somebody that needs the meat. He said, well, let me make sure I got all this right. I got to call them and tell them, everyone, they can come and take a deer. But I got to go with them when they do their hunting. That's right, Alfred. We're going to butcher at Mama's house. That's right, Alfred. But they have to give half the meat away. That's right, Alfred. To somebody who needs the meat. That's right. Like somebody who used to go off and leave them tied up to the trunk of a tree. That's right, Alfred. Merry Christmas.
This is our Kairos moment. So please just make yourself comfortable in your chair. Perhaps close your eyes if that suits you. And just relax. We'll hear the singing bowl and my words will go with you a little way. And we'll have quiet. Holy presence, whose voice we hear in the wind, whose energy we know in stories from Appalachia, whose passion we feel in piano music as we ask again, what kind of child is this anyway? Holy presence, whom we see in the faces of each other, whom we feel when our hands touch. Keep us awake to these wonderful things of the here and now. Amen.
the birth of Jesus, the Messiah, took place in this way. When his mother Mary had been engaged to Joseph, but before they lived together, she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. Her husband Joseph, being a righteous man and unwilling to expose her to public disgrace, planned to dismiss her quietly. But just when he had resolved to do this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophets. Look, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall name him Emmanuel, which means God is with us.
There could be a blue kazoo, a pair of ruby shoes, a silky new, a fetching red kimono, a Pakistani rug, an Elvis Presley mug, or the very best of Perry Como. There could be a handsome blonde, a Harry Potter wand, or those little strips to help you quit snoring, an anti-aging cream, a healthy self-esteem, waiting there for you on Christmas morning. Then again, in light of life's uncertainties, you may not find a single one of these, but guaranteed underneath that sheet will be a brand new day begun. The ones who love you, the turning earth, and a great big shining sun, a big old shining sun. You might like a better job, a diamond ring from Bob, a cabin place on Lake Okoboji. You're not afraid to be released, a Middle Eastern peace, or a sword of light like Obi-Wan Kenobi. You could bring your list to Santa on your knees, but all he's gonna say is we will see. But guaranteed underneath that tree it'll be a brand new day begun. The ones who love you and a turning earth and a great big shining sun, a big old shining sun. And if that's all you get for Christmas, in spite of all your wishes, you might hang your head and then go back to bed. Or you might discover it instead, that when you wake and see the day, and on the earth you read your name, you cut the gold ribbons of rhyme. You still might be surprised, or even realize that you got everything you wanted. And when you see underneath that tree, another brand new day begun. The ones who love you and the turning earth and a great big shining sun. Ooh, a big old shining sun. A big old shining sun. See that giant fireball, the biggest ornament of all, hung in the sky, the Christmas morn.
I love that song. I love that idea that what we find underneath the tree after all the things that we long for, that what we find perhaps is ourself, our name written on the earth. This idea of Christmas, I want to leave you with a couple of quick thoughts. And I want to thank Elizabeth for sharing her story, because the wonderful thing about stories, I don't know if it happened to you while you were just sitting there listening to these seeing these beautiful images, these stories probably started coming to your mind as well. And I started to remember some wonderful hunting stories. But I want to just get this out here just for you to think about throughout all this thing. We think of ourselves, I think, in the church, and I'm speaking universally, in terms of the general church, the United Methodist Church, the larger church, the church universal. Christians, I think, in general, have always thought of ourselves as an Easter people. That's a common sort of thing we say. We are an Easter people. We are people who celebrate resurrection. The notion, no matter what happens, love conquers all. And I think that's important. I don't want to dismiss that that's an important part of who we are. I think, though, that this is really the most important thing to remember, to be a part of, this idea of Christmas. And not simply because it's cute and it's wonderful and our culture has taken over, or the Western world has taken over with our general sort of worldview, which is more or less a capitalistic kind of worldview, a material kind of worldview, that everything is kind of like either or, we have or we don't have, and then we get caught up, Christmas gets caught up in that narrative as opposed to what the story, the sacred story, is really saying. This idea that everything is holy. This idea that incarnation is happening, which to me is perhaps the most profound and maybe even the most difficult to put into practice personally. Because ultimately what that means is we're all part of God. And God's part of all of us. It's all sacred. Even the people we don't like, even that other political party, whoever that other political party may be for you, even those folks over there that we just as soon not talk to. All of us are a part of this incarnational reality, God with us. Richard Rohr is one of my favorite new authors I've been reading, and one of the things that Richard Rohr talks about when he's talking about Christmas is he has this interesting image. He says, you go to a Christmas tree, and you may do this at your house, but we do it at our house a lot. There's not one single ornament on our tree that doesn't have a story. I mean, even the year that was kind of lean on the fact that we didn't buy an ornament that year to symbolize something, even on those years, which we've had a few, what we adorn the tree with those years are the little decorations that came on Christmas presents. And so they're hanging on the tree because they remind us of sometimes the stories don't always seem to be there. But if you look at all the ornaments, there's always little stories. And Richard Rohr talks about how it's fascinating if you start to think about it, if you'll just suspend time for a moment and you look at the story of that ornament or what it reminds you of, suddenly we've transcended time. Suddenly we're back in almost this kairos kind of reality where we're in the past, where we're experiencing that moment as now. And a profound thing happens. Just for a moment, we become present to something. And then we might move away from it and we might get back into our busy day. To me, the idea of presence is perhaps the most challenging thing that we face, but it's the biggest gift of all at Christmas. Not the presents under the tree, the gift of simply being present. Yesterday, I was pretty upset. My son Tim, his wife Emily, our granddaughter Molly, our 3.5-year-old granddaughter, they're in Germany. My mother's not doing well. I started counting up some things yesterday. I don't know, I woke up in a bad mood or something. But my day was looking kind of bleak, and I was looking around at the Christmas we decorated. We were going to have the band party over at our house. We have plumbing leaks now in our house. My younger son, who I love and is amazing, and invited me to go to a concert this weekend in Houston, and I almost did. But I decided I better be here. He's remodeling the bathroom, which means it is completely... How many of you saw Fried Green Tomatoes? Do you remember when the woman found herself and began tearing apart the house and thought, this is really fun, so I'll tear apart? Well, that's kind of what's happened to our house. It started in the bathroom, but now the hallway is now a part of the reconstruction. And so all of this chaos, and we've got the decorations, and nothing's going to happen. You're all invited to our house this week. Nothing's happening this holiday season because of the problems and the stuff, and the kids are gone. And I was feeling kind of bad, and Linda says, why don't we just go for a walk? The sun's out, it's beautiful. It's like 65 degrees, right? And I just didn't want to do it. And I said, I'm going to go run some errands. And so I went and ran some errands, picked up some prescription, picked up some contacts. And I was kind of taking my time going back to pick up a few groceries. And I came back out to the car, and all of a sudden, the sun was gone. The sun was gone. Wind was whipping around. Sky was covered in clouds. It had dropped 15 degrees. And so I was like, awesome, this will be great. I can just get a fire, and I'll just sit in the living room, and we'll just kind of wait out the evening. And when I got home, Linda had her tennis shoes on. She was ready. Now she had a huge coat on, and she said, let's go walking. And I said, what? And she said, we're going to the park. I said, what? We're going to the park. She said, we're going to go walking in the park. And, of course, it was 20-mile-an-hour winds, and it was 45, and then it was 40 degrees. And by the time we got to the park, it was 40 with a chill factor of about, 30. And we're walking around. And it's kind of funny because you can see people that went to the park about an hour earlier for photographs, and they were all in sleeveless outfits. And they're just running around like this, saying, hurry, take the picture. And we're kind of enjoying this whole thing when people are scattering for their cars. And this Japanese family come up to us, and they said, you have to come with us. We saw something amazing. And we're like, what? And the woman, she said, it was like a woman and a husband and an older daughter. And they said, we saw an owl. And so we said, okay, fine. And we went across the street into that wooded area of the Botanic Gardens. It's very wooded and kind of rough looking. And we were walking through there, but they kept looking back going, shh. And they kept saying, look up. And so we're walking through this trail, and we're just staring and kind of losing our balance when the guy said, stop. And he said, listen. And we could hear it off in the distance just a little bit. Hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo. And he started to point over there, and it was like, okay, there's an owl there. And then out of nowhere, an owl came from the other side and flew across. Right over our heads, about 10 feet. It was stunning. And then he smiled and looked at us. He like, do you see what I saw? Did you see the magic I found? And now I gave it to you. And so we sat for a little bit longer, walked around, went around to the other side, and looked where we thought we heard the sound. And then we were right behind it on the other side, and sure enough, the owl came from the other direction this time. And then 2 owls flew off into the distance. And we just started walking for the rest of the afternoon in the garden until it got almost dark and came back home. My uncle used to take me and my brother hunting, which is what you reminded me of. And I'll never forget Christmases with Uncle Mac, because Uncle Mac had lots of hunting stories to tell. He loved to tell these amazing hunting stories. And so I expected that the time we would go hunting would be this amazing time. We would get a deer, and it would have a 12-point rack, and we would come home victors with our heroic tales. But the funniest thing about my uncle, when he took us hunting, he took us to Ozona, which is one of the most difficult areas to try to hunt, for the first thing. And secondly, we didn't have deer blinds. I said, Uncle Mac, I thought this was like a turkey shoot. We just climb up into the deer blind and we shoot whatever comes to eat. And he said, no. He says, no. He says, we got to go find them. And so that morning after when we first arrived, we got our rifles and we went out and we started walking. And after about 2 hours of walking, we'd think we'd hear something over somewhere. And Uncle Mac would say, "Did you see anything?" And we'd say, "Well, no." And he would say, "Is it possible you're looking too hard?" And we'd say, "No, we're supposed to be looking." And he would tell us things like that because he would say, sometimes if you look too directly at something, you miss it. But when you learn to look around something, you might see something you didn't expect. We spent another hour or so out walking around when we saw a little white tail about 100 yards away dodge off into the draw, the little cliffs in the rocks. And Uncle Mac smiled and said, "It's a good day." And we turned around, we went back to the trailer. And I said, "Uncle Mac, we didn't shoot anything." And he said, "Well, I didn't think we were going to." I said, "Well, what was the point of that?" He said, "The point is just to see. The point is just to be present and to see." And he said, "You got to see." Incarnation is not about something that's fixed. It's not about something that gets repaired at Christmas time. It's not about something, I don't even know why I have my notes here. I haven't even used them yet. It's not about something that we hope will happen like a good Hallmark movie. We get caught up in that worldview that everything is supposed to come together, that everything is supposed to be happy, that it's supposed to have a happy ending. We have this idea, even in our mythical notions of the Nativity, that there's a God out there who brings a baby in here and changes the world. But if we're not going to hold to that, then we have to make sense out of what does incarnation mean. If it's not the happy ending, if it's not everything gets fixed. I think incarnation reminds us everything is holy. Everything is waiting to be discovered. The challenge is that we're in the midst of feeling sorry, or we're in the midst of feeling sad, or we're in the midst of experiencing losses which we have, which this time can be such a painful time for a lot of folks because of any number of reasons. The challenge is, how are we present to Christmas? What does it mean to be present? Something that Elizabeth said in our gathering this morning struck me as kind of interesting that I hadn't thought of. Because I think the one thing we do at Christmas time, but we do all year long, is we practice trying to be focused and present to the moment. Like our Japanese friends that introduced us to owls yesterday afternoon. Or my uncle who would take us hunting and just say it's all about just seeing. But at other times, this practice becomes difficult because we live with dualistic minds that say it's supposed to be this way. It's not supposed to be that way. And Elizabeth shared an interesting idea, which I've always known too. I just forgot it. If you want to change the world, if you want to change your world, then sometimes we have to change the stories we tell. Sometimes we have to change the stories we tell ourselves. We have to give ourselves permission. And I think the easiest way to do that is by remembering the gifts that are with us in every moment. If it's the smallest thing of staying focused on being with somebody at that moment and just paying attention, if it's making the conscious choice to go ahead and go for a walk and pay attention to what's going on around us, if it's making that conscious choice not to tell myself this story over and over and over, but to tell a different story, that's how we begin to transform. That's how we begin to rebirth something here and now. I'm going to invite the band to come on up now as they finish with this beautiful song called Blessed. And this song, they sang this song a few months back. And when I heard the song again, I thought, well, that's really what our lives are all about at Christmas time. That's really what our lives are about as incarnational people. is this recognizing the holy in all moments and realizing at Christmas time, that's what we get to open for one another.
I welcome the sun, the clouds out the rain, the wind that sweeps the sky clean and lets the sun shine again. This is the most magnificent life that's ever been. Love the dearest thing, baby. Blessed is this life. I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Blessed is this life. I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Hey! Blessed is this life. I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Ooh. Blessed is this life. I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Come on. I dwell in the darkness, I let in the light. I sleep in the afternoon and become the noise in the night. I trespass in temptation, suffer and sacrifice. I wake each day with the new sunrise. Do-do-do-do-do. Ba-do-do-do. Do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Ba-do-do-do. 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 Blessed is this life. I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Blessed is this life. I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Blessed is this life. I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Blessed is this life. I'm gonna celebrate being alive. Hey.
Let's all stand together. We'll have a blessing as we go from this place and invite you to stick around afterwards to sing our little chorus, Love Came Down at Christmas. I hope we can see you all on the 21st, this Wednesday, to listen to Elizabeth Wills and Hannah Kirby, and even join us for some of the drums. If you don't have your own drums, we got lots of them around here. Come and join us for that as well at 6. So we hope to see you then. We won't be having a service next Sunday in here. There'll be one Christmas Day service happening in the sanctuary for everyone who wants to come down and join us. And then there are all the Christmas Eve services that you saw, so maybe we'll see you there. If not, then wish you all a wonderful Christmas break and holiday and a beautiful Christmas day as well. Let's pray together. Holy One, as we leave this place, bless us that we might remember that we are a part of what is born at Christmas, that we are a part of what is born into this world every day, every moment, that the stories we tell are the choices we make, and with these tales we create worlds. Empower us to see, to find the blessings in the moments, and to speak them in this world that is so divided. Bless us from this place. We pray in the name of the one in whom we live and move and have our being. Amen. Let's sing Love Came Down. Love came down at Christmas. Love, a lovely love divine.
Love was born at Christmas. Stars and angels gave the sign. Dig it. Here we go. Love shall be. Love shall be our token. Love be yours and love be mine. Love from God to all of us. Love complete and gift of sight. Love came down at Christmas. Love and love, love divine. Love was born at Christmas. Stars and angels gave the sign. Stars and angels gave the sign. Came down at Christmas.